Hello. As you can see here, today I'll be talking about the game Thunder Road Vendetta. Now I'll only be talking about the base game, no expansions or anything. I don't have those. Had a birthday not too long ago, and this was one of the games I got for my birthday. Again, it's just the base game. This came out in 2023. I'd heard some good things about it, so I was interested in it. Anyway, let's get started with setup, and then we'll go to how to play. Alright, first you'll choose a starting tile. It can either be the parking lot side 1A, or it can be the runway ruin side 1B. We'll just, for now, we'll say we're going to start with the parking lot side 1A. Next, you take the remaining road tiles. They are double-sided, and you're supposed to shuffle them up, randomize them, and then draw the next tile. Of course, it's kind of hard to shuffle them up and randomize. People have come up with various ways to do it. Actually, Restoration Games, the publisher that makes this game, has an app that just picks tiles for you. Some people have made cards or whatever, but however you want to do it, you just randomize these boards and pick the next tile to be the middle tile, and then one more tile to be the lead tile. So I used the Restoration Games app, and it said to use 2A for the middle tile, so that is this one, and 5A, so that is this one for the lead tile. The other tiles you just set aside. You may need to draw one. So I've assembled mine right here with the parking lot, the snake way, and Route 60 sticks. Like I said, then you place the remaining tiles somewhere nearby in case you need to draw one. Then you take this finish line and just place it nearby as well. Next, you'll take these tiles, which are the hazard tiles. They're double-sided. You want to keep them face down like this. Shuffle them up, and then you're going to place one on each hazard space on the board here. On the rear tile, the starting tile, you'll only place hazard tokens on the spaces marked with the number of players that you'll be playing with. So I'll be playing, setting up for 3 players, so I'll have to put one here, 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 and here. I will not put one on the 2-player spaces. But then all the other spaces will also get one. So let me get that done. Almost finished here. Alright, I got hazard tiles on all the appropriate spaces. Again, not these because I'm setting up for a 3-player game. You would only include those if you were playing a 2-player game. Then the leftover hazard tokens, you just place them nearby for a draw pile in case you'll need them. Next, you'll take your damage tokens, which are these double-sided tokens. You'll shuffle them up, and then you'll just place them nearby in a draw pile. So I've got mine shuffled up and just placed up here for now. Next, you'll take your FX dice. These are your FX dice. You got a stunt. Green one is a stunt die. Black one's a shooting die. The red one is a slam die. Purple one I think is direction. And you've got your road die. Just place those somewhere nearby. Like so. Next, each player will choose a color, and they'll take the corresponding command board. 3 dashboards. You got small, medium, and large. You take the matching cars. You got a small, a medium, and a large. You also have a matching chopper, and finally matching colored 4 movement dice. So I've done that for my 3 players. As you can see here, I'll have a little tight spot of room here, so I kind of have to put my middle player up above the other players. But anyway, I've got set up for 3 players. They've all got their cars, dashboard, movement dice, and choppers. The players will then take their cars and just place them up here behind the starting tile, as their first move will be onto this starting tile. Like so. So I've got all the starting cards, or all the cars behind the starting tile. Players will then roll all 4 of their movement dice. The totals will be used to determine the first player, and they'll also keep those same rolls to be used during their first round of gameplay. So let me get that done for the other players. Oh, he got 3 6s. That's pretty good. So we see the blue player got a total of 10, the green player got a total of 13, and the orange player got a total of 20. The player with the lowest total becomes the first player, so that would be the blue player. So he will go first on the first turn of the game. Again, you keep the rolls that you rolled to determine first player also to be your roll that you use for the first round of the game. If there had happened to be a tie for the lowest, then all players would re-roll all their dice and keep doing that until one player has the lowest. The first player will take the road die, that's the green or the gray die. They'll roll that and they'll place that somewhere near the board where all the players can see it. You'll also have some of these wrecks, wrecked cars, and you'll just put those somewhere near the board. You may need them. They may get placed on the board later. And that completes setup. So we should be ready to move on to how to play. Alright, so how do we play? Well, the game is played in turns and rounds. So you'll start a round starting with the first player. They'll take a turn. Then in clockwise order, each player will continue to take turns until each player has taken 3 turns, and then that will end the round and you'll start a new round. So at the start of a round, all the players will roll their 4 movement dice and set them in their play area. The first player will roll the road die and set that where all the other players can see it. Now, of course, during setup, we already did that, so you don't do that at the beginning of the first round since that was done during setup. Alright, then players will take their turn, starting with the first player. Each turn consists of 4 steps. The first step is to assign 1 die to an operable car. So cars can become inoperable, and we'll talk about that later, but the first step is to assign 1 die. So you choose one of your movement die and assign it to one of your operable cars. At the beginning of the game, of course, they're all operable, and you place it in the middle space there where it says any. So if you were going to move, if this player was going to move his small doom buggy there, and he might take this number 3 dice and place it there in the middle of the dashboard for that vehicle. Now that die is going to be the number of spaces that vehicle is going to be able to move. So we'll talk about movement when we get to step 3, which is move. But step 1 is assign a die. Another thing you can do in step 1 when you're assigning a die is to activate a command. So you can see you've got 4 possible commands. Airstrike, which lets you place your chopper on an empty space and shoot with it. And you can see you can use any of your die results to place it there for that command. You also have the nitro command, which you can place either a value 1, 2, or 3 dice here. This command gains moves equal to the value of the die. So if you place a 1 there, it's basically giving you 1 extra move. So if you had this 3 and you placed a 1 there, you would have a total of 4. If you placed a 3 there, you'd have a total of 6. Alright, to drift, you have to place a 3, 4, or 5 value die here, and that lets you ignore the first slam your car would have this turn. We haven't talked about slams yet, but that's basically when your car is going to run into another vehicle or wreck on the road. We'll talk more about that when we're talking about movement. And finally, you can place a 6 value die here, and that lets you remove 1 damage from one of your cars. Again, we haven't talked about damage yet, but there are certain things that can cause damage. Either a road hazard, some of these hazard tiles on the board can cause you to take damage, or if you get shot from another player's car or chopper, that can cause you to take damage. So when you take damage, you'll take one of these damage tiles, resolve it, and then place it under your board. And again, we'll talk more about damage later, but if you place a 6 in this section on the command board, then you get to remove 1 damage token. But you only get to do 1 command per round. So even though you get 3 turns during a round, you only get to do 1 command a round. So it's optional. You don't have to do it with your first turn of the round, but sometime during one of your turns of the round, you're probably going to want to take a command. So again, in the first step, the assign phase, or the assign step, you'll take 1 die, place it on one of your operable vehicles dashboard, and then you have the option of taking another one of your die and assigning it to a command. Now once you've assigned a die to a vehicle on a turn, after you've completed your turn, you'll slide that die down to the end turn space. On another future turn on that round, you're not able to assign another die to that vehicle. So you would have to assign it to another operable. On the future turn, you'd have to assign a die to a different operable vehicle. So there may come a point where you have a vehicle that's inoperable. When it's inoperable, you'll flip its dashboard face down like that. So it may come to your turn. Well, these 2 cars have already taken a turn. You still have die left to assign. You can't assign a die to an inoperable car. So you've only got these 2 operable cars that have already taken your turn. Well, what you can do is coast. You'll see there's a little spot here to place a die for coast. So if you don't have an operable car and you still have dice left, then you can assign, when it comes to your turn, you can assign a die to the coast spot, and that allows that vehicle just to move 1 space. And again, we'll talk about movement later. If you have, 2 inoperable cars, maybe that's the case. You've already assigned a die, taken a turn, assigned a die to a command. Then comes to your turn again. You've got 2 inoperable cars. You assign 1 die to coast. Then then the other players take their turns, come back to you. You can assign another die to coast again. Remember, coasting allows you just to move 1 space forward, and that's it. You see there's 2 pips next to the coast die there. That means that's the most number of die you can assign to coast to 1 vehicle. Alright, so once more, the first step of your turn, you'll assign a die. You'll assign it to an operable vehicle that is not previously moved, unless you don't have one. Then you can assign it to a coast on an operable vehicle that you have previously moved. And you also have the option once per round to assign a die to one of the command options. Alright, so the second step of the player's turn is to carry out the command if they assigned a die to one of the command options. So if you get assigned a die to airstrike, place your chopper on an empty space and shoot with it. Now, spaces are empty unless they have a vehicle in the space, then it's not empty, so it can't be placed there. Any space that has a token in it, whether face up or face down, is not empty. And impassable spaces, which are these spaces with the double yellow border, those are not empty. So all spaces with a hazard token or an impassable space or a space with another vehicle or chopper in it is an obstacle space and considered not empty. So you could play, if you chose the airstrike, you could place your chopper in any empty space, and then if there is a vehicle in front of it, you can have that chopper fire on, or shoot at that vehicle. We'll talk more about shooting here in a minute, but you can do that, except on the first round. During the first round, there's no shooting. Alright, and we've kind of talked about the other commands. So first step of your turn is to assign die. Second step is to carry out a command if you chose to do a command on that turn, to assign a die to a command on that turn. The third step is to move, and again you'll move the so again, as an example, if we had assigned this 3 to the small buggy, you'll move that number of spaces. So the blue player, if this is what he had done, then he would take his small vehicle and he would move it 3 spaces. Now, the first turn of the game, your first move is always onto the board. It can move onto any space on the board, so he could move on here, 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 any of these spaces. Well, not up here. That's where it has the title. That's not a valid space. So, just say, for example, he moved 1, 2, 3. Now, when you're moving your vehicle, you can only move into spaces in your front arc. So that's these 3 spaces in front of the space you're currently in. Those are the available spaces you can move into. So this player can move here, or here, or here for a movement. So if you came in down here, your next move could be to here, or to here, or to here. If your first move was here, your next move could be to this space or to this space. So again, it's the 3 spaces. So here it would be either this one with the hazard, this one, or this one. So the 3 spaces in your front arc. So if you move on to a hazard tile, one of the options that you flip it over and resolve it. One thing it could be is a wreck. If it's a wreck, you'll place one of these vehicles in that space, one of these wreck vehicles. So let's say this hazard tile was, here, just for example. You flip it over, it's a wreck. You discard this tile, replace it with a wreck, put your vehicle on top of it, and then you resolve a slam. So we'll go ahead and talk about resolving a slam, but anytime that your vehicle runs into another vehicle, another opponent's vehicle, or even one of your own vehicles, or a wreck, as in this example, you'll resolve a slam. So whenever a slam happens, the moving vehicle loses all remaining moves. So even if this car had 6 and they moved 2 and ran into another car, or resolved, or a wreck, or resolved a hazard tile that resulted in a wreck being there, then you'll put your vehicle on top. You lose any remaining moves, so you won't get to move further even if you had more movement points. Then you'll take the slam die, in the direction die and roll them. Then if the slam die shows this, this means the top car is going to get moved by the direction die. If it shows this, then the bottom die, the bottom car is going to get moved in the direction of the shown on the direction die. Now on the slam die, there's more. It's usually going to be a bottom. I think there's 4 bottoms and only 2 tops. So in this case we rolled a top, so the top car is going to move in the direction shown on the direction die. So the current space is always the solid icon there, and the direction that the vehicle is going to move is just the bordered. So you can see it's going to move 1 space to the right here, so the blue car, after the result of this slam would be the blue car moving into this space. Now let's show an example. If we weren't having a wreck, say this blue car moved in on top of this larger orange car, and you resolve the slam. So again, you roll the die. The bottom car is going to get moved back 1 space. Now when you're resolving a slam, if one of the vehicles is larger than the other vehicle, then the owner of the larger vehicle can ask for 1 re-roll of both dice. So in this case, the orange car, he's on the bottom, he would have to move back 1. Since he's the larger vehicle, he could request a re-roll, and in this case that would work out for him, because now it's the top car that's going to get moved back and to the right one. If the vehicle that gets moved as a result of a slam happen to move onto another vehicle at that point, then another slam would occur. If they get moved onto another hazard tile, then they would have to resolve that hazard tile. So if whatever space a slammed vehicle gets moved into, they have to resolve any effect that space might require. Alright, so that covers a wreck hazard tile. Again, you'll place a wreck in that space and then resolve a slam. Place the car that moved onto that hazard tile on top of it and resolve a slam. Let's talk about another hazard tile you might run into, and that's a mine. So if you move onto a hazard tile and have to flip it and it's a mine, then that player that landed on that mine would discard that hazard tile. They would take a damage tile at random and resolve it. Just for example, this one, well, we'll talk more about the effects of damage tiles in a little bit, but they would, if they land out on mine, they would take a damage tile, resolve it, and then place it under the vehicle that took that damage, and now they have 1 damage. If a vehicle ever takes 2 damage, they become inoperable. We'll talk more about being inoperable here in a little bit, but I just wanted to mention, if you go over a hazard tile and it's a mine, you have to draw a damage tile, resolve it, put it under your dashboard, and you lose all remaining moves. Alright, another type of hazard tile you might resolve just becomes a road tile. You flip it over, it looks like this. It's just a road tile. It acts just like a road tile, like the regular road tiles. If you flip over a hazard tile and it has this, then it becomes a mud space. You'll see there are other mud spaces already on the board. Well, not those, but any of these here are mud spaces. Mud spaces act like a normal space, only the exception is it takes 2 movement to move into a mud space. So if you resolve a hazard tile and it's a mud space, if, for instance, this blue moved 1, say they had a movement of 3, they moved on to here, flip it, resolve it, it's a mud space, well, then that takes up an extra 1 of their moves because it takes 2 to move into a mud space. So if they moved there 2, they would only have 1 left over to move here. So again, that hazard tile is just a mud space, which acts like a regular space, but it costs 2 to move into it. Now, you can move into a mud space, either on a board or a hazard tile mud space, for only 1 if it's your last move. So if this player had a movement of 3 and they went, or they were here and they had a movement of 3, they could go 1, 2, 3 and enter the mud space, even though normally it costs 2 movement to enter a mud space. If it's your last move, you can just spend 1. Alright, and then finally the last type of hazard tile that you might encounter is a oil slick. So for example, if this player was moving here and they moved onto this and encountered an oil slick, then you roll the direction die and you move 1 space in the direction shown, so that would be back 1 space there. And then if you still have movement left, you can continue your movement. And the oil slick space is also considered a road space. And that pretty much covers the different type of hazards you might encounter if you move over a hazard tile. I guess we should talk about other terrain here on the board. These yellow spaces or off-road spaces, they do just cost 1 movement to enter, but they're not considered a road space. And the reason it matters why a space is a road space or not is because you remember at the beginning of a round, the first player will roll the road die, and then that number is a bonus move that a player, when they take one of their turns and move their vehicle, if all of their movement starts and ends on a road space, then they can use, if they want to, they can add this 2 additional movement to their movement. So it's like a bonus move that you can do if you started on a road space and ended your move on a road space. But if you do choose to use the additional movement, you have to use all of it. You can't just use a portion of it. But if any of your movement is on an off-road space or a mud space, then you don't get to use the road die bonus. And then of course we kind of talked a little bit about these impassable spaces that have a yellow border. If your vehicle is ever forced to move into an impassable space, then it's eliminated. It's just destroyed. It doesn't have a possibility to be repaired. The same if your vehicle is ever moved off the left or the right, the left or the back of the board, then that vehicle is just eliminated. Also, when a chopper is on the board, you can move through, like if you had a movement of 3 here, 1, 2, 3, you can move through a space with a chopper. But if you ever end your movement in a space with a chopper, even your own, your vehicle is eliminated. And if you get moved, as a result of a slam or something into a space with a chopper, then you're eliminated. Or at least that vehicle is eliminated. So I think we've pretty much covered movement. You have to move, you must move the full amount of the die that you use for movement. If you used a nitro command as well, remember you move the value of the die you put on there, so a 1, 2, or 3, and again you must move that full amount. And then we already talked about, if you move into a space with a hazard, you flip it over and resolve it. It stays on the board, so if you happen to move into a space with an already flipped over hazard, then you still resolve it. But that pretty much covers movement. So that's 3 of the steps you'll take on your turn. Remember, first one is assign. You'll assign a dice to an operable vehicle. You'll possibly assign one for a command. If you do, then you resolve the command. Next, you'll move the vehicle you assigned a dice to. And finally, you can shoot. So let's just say we end it up like this. So you can shoot as the final step of your turn, as long as the vehicle that you're going to shoot is in your forward arc. So in one of the same spaces you could move to. So this player could move to here, here, or here. So he could shoot a vehicle if it was here, here, or here. So if it ends that way, you can take a shoot for your fourth step. Again, I'll say during the first round of the game, you are not allowed to shoot. If there was more than one possible target, if this car moved here, he can shoot this one or this one because they're both in his firing arc. You just choose one, you don't get to shoot both. You cannot shoot choppers, so if this chopper was here, this car would not be able to shoot this chopper. He still would only have two valid targets of these cars. You cannot shoot a chopper. You can shoot a wreck, so if this wreck was here, then he would have three possible targets to choose from. He could shoot the wreck. Remember, if a wreck takes any damage, it's eliminated. And wrecks are treated as small, inoperable vehicles. So the size of the vehicle does come into play when we resolve a shoot step. So I'll talk about that here just in a second. And I mentioned that if you move into another vehicle, you move on top of it and resolve a slam. Even though you lose all your movement, when you slam into another vehicle basically and have to resolve a slam, you lose any possible movement that you might still have left over, but you still can resolve a shoot action after you've resolved the slam if you have a valid target. So when you shoot, you roll this shoot die, and then depending on the size of the vehicle that you're shooting, if you roll that size, then you hit that target. So there's more, it's easier to hit a large vehicle. So that one, oh no, that's a medium. So if this player was shooting at this and he rolled the medium, then that would be a hit. Or if he rolled medium or small, that would be a hit. Or if he rolled any, that would be a hit. But if he rolled a large, then he would not hit the vehicle. So smalls are the hardest ones to hit because you either have to roll the medium, small, or the any in order to hit that one. Medium, you could roll the medium or the any or the medium small, and the large you can roll 1, 2, 3 or the any. So it's much easier to shoot a large vehicle than a medium or small vehicle. But if you do get a hit, the owner of the vehicle that you hit has to draw a damage and resolve it, and then put it underneath the vehicle that was hit. And that's the same way shooting with a chopper works. You remember, as one of the commands you can do is an airstrike. So when you resolve the airstrike command, you can place your chopper on any empty space and shoot with it. So if this player was resolving an airstrike, he could put his chopper here and then choose one of these vehicles to shoot, and it works the exact same way. You roll the shoot die. If you match the size of the vehicle you're shooting at, then that vehicle has to take a damage. Of course, if it's a wreck, then it's just destroyed. So let's talk a little bit more about damage. So as I've said, some hazards can give you a damage, or getting shot by a chopper or another vehicle can damage you. And like I said, when you take a damage, you take one of the damage tiles. First, resolve it. So let's talk about the different types of damage that you might have to resolve. If you drew a shrapnel, say this car took a damage and it drew this tile, shrapnel. So what you do is have to get the direction die, roll it, and then you see what direction. So this one's going back. Starting with the car that took the damage and looking back, going back in a straight line from the direction it shows. If the first road vehicle that you would come to, that vehicle would also have to take a damage and draw a damage tile and resolve it. So in this case, the damage is just straight back, so nobody would get hit with the shrapnel. And the shrapnel passes through any terrain, even impassable terrain, until it hits another road vehicle or goes off the edge of the board. So if maybe he had rolled this, then the shrapnel would come up and hit this vehicle, and then this vehicle would have to resolve a damage, take a damage tile and resolve it, and put the damage, underneath their vehicle. So that's the way shrapnel works. Alright, if you drew a dazed damage tile, first thing you'll roll is the stunt die. You'll see with the green. Alright, so you roll a 2, and that's how many spaces that you're going to end up moving with the direction die. So you'll take the direction die and roll it once. Then you'll move once in that direction. So if this vehicle had drawn this dazed tile, they would get this, they would move it again, and then because they rolled a 2, they've got to roll the direction die one more time and move in that direction. So now it's going to be this way. So, but if they had been straight, then they would have slammed into that car and had to resolve a slam. However, if you move into a space that causes you to lose your moves, like if the first roll moved you into a space that caused you to slam into another vehicle and have to resolve a slam, then you lose all your remaining moves, so you would not resolve the second dazed roll. Or for instance, if it moved you onto a hazard that was a mine that causes you to lose your move, so you wouldn't have to resolve the second one. So again, this one's how many times you'll have to roll it, and then this will tell you the direction you're going to move. Skid works just like the direction die. You'll move 1 in the direction shown. So if this card took a damage, drew the damage tile, and it was skid, they would move 1 in that direction, so they would move over here. And then again, whatever tile you move into, a hazard, or if that causes you to move into a impassable terrain, then your car would just be eliminated. If you moved into another vehicle, then you would do a slam. Right, if you draw a damage tile and it's a dent, then there's nothing further to resolve other than you'll be putting the damage tile underneath your vehicle, but there's no effect that's going to happen. And the final possible damage effect that we haven't talked about is blast off. So when you get that, you'll roll both the stunt and the direction die. So in this case, 2, and you will move that many spaces in the direction shown. So for instance, if this car got this, they would move 2 spaces in the direction shown. So here, and you're blasting off, so you would ignore any spaces in between from where you're blasted off from to where you land. So since they're moving 2, if there was another vehicle there, they wouldn't slam it, or if that was an impassable terrain, they wouldn't get eliminated. Again, so when you're blasting off, say we rolled a 4 backwards. If he was here and he got a blast off and rolled a 4 back, he's going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you do resolve the space you land on, but you ignore any spaces in between. So those are the different types of effects you can draw when you're taking damage. But remember, no matter which one you get, you have to then take that damage tile and put it under the car that took the damage. When you get a second damage tile, your car then becomes inoperable. So if the blue small doom buggy took its second damage tile, it becomes inoperable. So at that point you flip it over, like so. You then turn the car backwards in the location that it's in. So when a car's inoperable, you can't assign dice to it or do anything to it other than if you take a repair command, you know, by putting a 6 value dice on there, then you can remove one of the damage. When you do that, then you flip it back over and it's operable again. But as long as it's inoperable, you can't assign movement dice to it. It can't take any further damage, so there's no point for anybody to shoot at it. It can't take any damage from being shot at. It can't take any actions, although it could still be affected by, if it was run into by another vehicle, then it, and a slam effect moved it, it would still be moved, but it wouldn't take any damage in any way. As I said, if you do a repair command, you know, when you're assigning die to one of your other operable vehicles, then you'll just take that tile that you repaired and shuffle it back into the draw pile. And then you can flip your tile back over, turn your car back around, and if you haven't used all 3 of your turns, on your next turn you could assign a die to that vehicle. Alright, so those are the 4 steps of a player's turn. They'll assign a die, they'll carry out a command if they also assigned a die to a command. They'll then move according to the movement die they used, and if they did a nitro bonus, or if they get to use the road bonus for moving only on road spaces. And then they'll do a shoot if possible, if they've landed in a space where they have a valid target to shoot. Once their turn is over, once they've completed all those steps and their turn is over, they'll move the die that they assigned that turn to the in turn spot on that vehicle. And then the player to their left will begin their turn. And then they'll just go around like that, like I said. Once all players have had 3 turns, then that ends the round. And then you'll start another round by all the players rolling all their dice. You'll pass the road dice to the left of the player that was the first player last turn, and then they will roll that die and again put it where all players can see it. And you continue this way until somebody wins the game. So let's talk about how you win. Alright, so one way you can win the game is if you are the only player left, if all the other players are out of the game. A player is out of the game when either all their cars are inoperable or eliminated. So if you have 2 cars eliminated and 1 car becomes inoperable, then you're out of the game. So if you're the only player that still has operable cars at any point in the game, then you automatically win. The other way to win is if your car moves, if you're the first car to move on to the finish line, which can get placed in one of a couple of ways. So let's talk about how the finish line gets placed. So if you're just playing a 2-player game, when a car is going to move off the edge of the front board, then you'll place a new tile, place it randomly, draw a new tile, and place it at the front, and you'll remove the rear tile. Now any cars that are still on the rear tile at that point are automatically eliminated, and any hazard tokens that are on that rear tile are just discarded. If there are any choppers on that rear tile, they just get returned to their owning player, who can place them again the next time they take an airstrike command. That rear tile that you remove, you flip it to the other side and place it at the bottom of your tile draw pile. And again, as I said, you take the top tile, or you can use some randomizing method to determine the next tile. That is going to be your lead tile. So you'll always just have 3 tiles on the board, but the new one drawn will be the first tile. The one that was will be the lead tile. The one that was the lead tile will be the middle tile, and the one that was the middle tile will become the rear tile, as the rear tile will have been removed. So in a two-player game, if one of the other players isn't eliminated beforehand, the fifth tile placed will become the final tile, and it will get the finish line placed at the end of it. Now it's a little different if there's three or more players playing. It's still the same, when a player, the first player that's going to move off the end, you'll replace it with another, random tile from the draw pile, unless it has become the final tile, and it becomes the final tile when one of the players is out of the game. So that could be, you may never even place an extra tile if by the time the players get to the end of the first set of tiles that were laid out at the start, if one of the players is eliminated, then you would just put the finish line on there, and you'll never add another tile. But if one of the players is not eliminated by the time a player is going to move off the front of the board, then you would place a new tile with the steps that I mentioned previously, removing the rear tile, discarding any hazard tiles, any vehicles on there are eliminated. Then you slide it back and place the new tile, and you just again keep going that way until at least one of the players is eliminated, and then the lead tile at that point becomes the final tile, and you place the finish line, and then the first player to cross the finish line is the winner. Or at any point, if you're the only player that still has operable cars, then you're the winner. I hope that wasn't too confusing. It's a little difficult to explain when the final tile is placed, but I think I covered it. So I think that pretty much covers all of the rules. I'm just going to put everything back to how it was right after setup, and then we'll go over a few example turns. Alright, I think I have everything set back up to how it was right after we did setup. We'll start with our first player, which is the blue player. Remember, normally at the beginning of a round you would roll your dice, but we did that during setup, so we don't do that at the beginning of the first round. And also in this first round, there's no shooting from choppers or from the road vehicles. Alright, so blue player will take their first turn. So the first thing they need to do is assign dice. So they'll take this 3. We'll say they'll put that on their small doom buggy there. Now they also have the option to assign one to a command, but they're not going to do that this turn. So now they move on to move. Since they didn't assign a dice to a command, there's no command for them to activate, which is the second step. So now they move on to move, which is the third step. So they're moving their small, and they'll just have them go 1, 2, 3. Again, they assigned a 3, so they can move 3. They did move on all road spaces, so they can move an additional 2, which they will do. 1, 2. And then the fourth step, of course, is shoot. But not only can they not shoot in the first round, they have no target to shoot out in the first round. So that's going to end their turn, so they'll just move their dice down to the end turn. And now we'll go to the next player to their left. So that brings us to the orange player. So they will assign a die. So they'll, just to do something different, we'll say they're going to take this 6 and assign it to their medium Avenger vehicle. Now they could also assign a die to a command, and we'll just say they're going to do that. They can put a 1, 2, or 3 in nitro, so they're going to put a 2, so that's going to give them an extra 2 movement, so they'll have a total movement of 8 to them. So now we'll go ahead and move the vehicle. So they're going to move their medium vehicle, which is this one. So we'll have them go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Remember, that's the 6 plus the 2 for their nitro. They did move on all road spaces, so they can use the bonus as well. So they will move an additional 2. There's no shoot, so there's nothing they can shoot at, so they'll end their turn as well. Alright, now we'll move on to the green player. So we'll just have them move a different vehicle. They'll assign a 4, and we'll have them assign a die to their airstrike. Even though the chopper can't shoot this round, they could at least go ahead and place it. So they're going to assign a die to a command. So now they carry out, they've assigned die, now they carry out command. So they'll go ahead and move their chopper first. And we'll say they're going to place this chopper right here. Okay, now, unfortunately, because it's the first round of the game, he couldn't shoot. But if it wasn't the first round of the game, he could then shoot at that vehicle. Alright, so we've done assign, we've done command. Now we're going to go ahead and move. He's got to move his large vehicle 4 spaces. And so he will go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, because he moved all on road spaces, he can use that bonus to move an additional 2. He will. He's going to move and slam into this vehicle. Now, that's 1, but he's going to lose. He would have 1 extra movement, but he's going to lose it because he's slamming into this vehicle. So now we'll roll the slam. Since we're resolving a slam, we'll roll the slam and direction die. Bottom vehicle is going to go 1 space that way. So the bottom vehicle is the blue one. He's going to go here. So now he's got to resolve that hazard. So we will flip that over. And it is a mine. Oh no. So now he's got to take a damage. He's got to draw damage and resolve it. He got a shrapnel. So remember, with the shrapnel, we'll roll the direction die, and then it'll be like a piece of shrapnel's flying off in the direction die resolves, and the first road vehicle that it encounters will take a damage. Okay, and that's going to go straight ahead from this one, and there's nothing straight ahead all the way off the board, so nobody's going to get hit with that shrapnel. But he does have to take this damage and put that under his, or not this damage, but this is the hazard. We'll discard that and we'll place the damage under his vehicle. Alright, now remember that was all part of the green player's turn, but they have finished their movement, and that's going to end their turn, so they'll slide their die down to the end turn. We'll come back to the blue player. It's their turn again. So we'll say they're going to assign this die to their medium Avenger. And they'll place this. They'll do a command. Remember, they haven't used their command this round. So they're going to place this 2 on the nitro. So that's going to give their medium Avenger a movement of 5. So they will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They stayed all on road spaces, so they can move an additional 2. So they will go 1, 2. Alright, so they've done their assign, command, move. They can't shoot, so they're going to end their turn. Now we go on to the orange player. Now remember, they can't do any more command this round because they've already assigned a die to a command, and you can only do a command once per round. So these other 2 dice they have will have to be assigned to their vehicles. So he'll place this 6 on his small doom buggy, There's no command because he's already done one, so now we just go straight to the move. So he's going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then he stayed all on road spaces, so he gets to move an additional 2. 1, 2. That's pretty much it for him. So he'll slide his die down to the end turn. Green also has already spent their command for the round, so they won't be able to do any assign any commands, so they're just going to assign a die to their medium Avenger. Now they go on to move it, so they're going to move a 4. So they'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. They stayed all on road spaces, so they get to use the road die and move an additional 2. Again, that's going to be it for them, so they will end their turn. Back to the blue player. They only have 1 die to assign. They have to assign it to their other operable vehicle, which is their large eliminator. So there's no command, so they just move straight to movement. So they'll move that vehicle 2. So 1, 2. They stayed all on road spaces for their movement, so they can move an additional 2. That's going to be it for them. They're going to end their turn. On to the orange player. Alright, the orange player just has their 1 die left. They will play it onto their large eliminator as well, so they can move 6. So they are going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and everyone's picking on this blue car. They're going to slam into that blue car. So we'll roll our slam and our direction die. And we got a bottom. It's going to move bottom right. That's kind of the same direction he went last time. So now he's moved in there. That resolves that slam. And that will end his turn. And now we move on to the green player and their final turn. So they'll put their die on their small doom buggy, giving them a movement of 3. And we'll just have them come up here. 1, 2, 3. They moved all on road vehicles. Road tiles, so they can move an additional 2. So they'll go 1, 2. And with that, we will end the round. So now we'll start a new round by passing this die to the player to the left of the blue player, which is going to be our orange player. And now all the players will start a new round. All the players will roll their dice. Orange keeps getting some good rolls. And he also has to roll the... Oh, a 1. That's kind of lame. Okay. Alright, let's have the green player re-roll their dice. Okay. And we'll have the blue player roll their dice. Alright. So now we can start a new round. We'll go ahead and finish this round and then wrap it up. And remember, shooting is allowed now. So orange player is the first player. So they are going to move their large vehicle. So they're going to assign a die there. And they will assign this 4 to their airstrike. So first they'll carry out their command. So they'll place their chopper. They're going to place it right behind the green's vehicle there, and they will get to shoot. So they're going to shoot at it. It's a large, so we want to roll a large. And we get it. So green has to take a damage. So they'll draw a damage token. Uh-oh, they got a blast off. So they will roll the stunt die and the direction die. Oh, just 1 space, so that's not... but that's going to move him forward onto this hazard. So now he's going to have to resolve this hazard, which is a wreck. So we'll need to take a wrecked vehicle, place it there, place the green vehicle on top of it. This just gets discarded. And now we got to resolve a slam with the green vehicle on top of that wreck. So we need the slam die and the direction die. And the top would move one back, but because the larger vehicle, the wreck is considered a small vehicle, the larger vehicle and a slam can request a reroll, so he's going to request a reroll. We still got the top, so that's no good. This time he goes back one to the right. That's going to result in another slam. He's going to slam into this orange vehicle. Now they are both the same size, so nobody will be able to request a reroll. And we got the bottom is going to go up one to the right. So now he's going to slam into that wreck because he moved up there into that wreck. This is just now, so he's got to have a slam there. And that's a top's going to move back, but he is larger than that wreck, so he's going to request a reroll. Alright, and this time we got a bottom, so the wreck is going to move back one to the left. So the wreck's going to move there. Alright, we finally finished doing all of our slams there, but the green large vehicle does get this damage from earlier. Alright, and that is going to end. That was the orange player. All of that started with the orange player moving their large vehicle, so they're going to end their turn. So now we go on to the green player. Alright, so we'll say the green player is going to move their large vehicle 4, and they will also, we'll say they're going to do an airstrike. Okay, so they've done a sign. Now they're going to do command, so they're doing airstrike. They'll just leave their chopper where it is, but this time they get to shoot with it. They're shooting at a medium vehicle. So let's have them roll over here. Hopefully I don't know, large. Alright, so that's a miss. So they were shooting here at the medium, but they rolled a large, so it's a miss. Alright, now they got to move their large vehicle 4. So they'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. They stayed on the road for all of their movement. So they get to use the road dice of 1 extra move. Now the extra move you get from the road dice doesn't have to be on a road tile. So he's able to move onto this off-road space. Alright, and that is going to end their turn. So they'll move their die down there to the end turn. Okay, now we're to the blue player. Let's see what they might want to do. They're going to move they're going to assign a die to their small vehicle, and they will also assign a command die. They're going to assign this 6 to repair, so that allows them to remove 1 damage from one of their cars. So they're going to remove this from their small vehicle, and that'll just get shuffled back in with the other damage tiles. Alright, so now they're moving their small vehicle 4. So they'll go 1, 2, 3, and debating whether to smash into that other vehicle. But they won't. They'll go 4. All their movement was on the road, so they get to use the bonus move as well. They're going to move right there. Alright, and that will end that turn. Alright, the orange is going to assign a 5 to his medium. He can't do a command because he's already done one this round, so he'll just be moving his medium 5. He's going to take a chance and move on to this hazard. So 1 onto this hazard, and it's just a regular road tile, so that's okay. So 2, 3, 4, and he'll take a chance and move on to this hazard as well. And that's a mud, which normally would take 2 spaces to move into, or 2 movement to move into, but if it's your last move, you can move into it with 1, so that's what he's done. And that will end his turn. He's got nobody to shoot at. Alright, green is going to assign this 4 to their small vehicle. They're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. They stayed all on road tiles, so they do get to move the extra 1. Now, you know what? They're going to move here. And then they're going to shoot at the blue buggy there. So, not a very good chance to get a small since we're shooting at a small, but worth a shot. Oh, they got it. Medium or small. So that blue vehicle takes a damage, so we got to draw a damage tile. He got a skid, so he's going to move 1 forward. But then he does take that damage. So it's a good thing we repaired that 1 damage, or he would be inoperable now. Alright, so that's going to end the green player's turn. Back to the blue player. I guess they will move their large with this 5. So they're going to go 1, 2, 3, and then they're going to go 4 and land on top of this one. So that's going to cause a smash. So they'll lose their extra movement point, but they're hoping they move that vehicle under that chopper, and that will eliminate it. So the bottom moves 1 forward, so that worked out exactly how they wanted. So that would move it 1 forward under that chopper. If you ever end your turn in the same space as a chopper, then you're eliminated. So this orange vehicle's eliminated. So it's just removed from the game. That's their small. So its tile is just removed from the game as well. So that can just go back in the box along with the vehicle. Alright, and that's going to end, the blue player doesn't have any more movement left because they slammed that vehicle, so that's going to end their turn. So, now we'll go back to orange. Now, here's where we come into the case where orange has a die, but they've got no operable vehicles that they can assign that to, so now this can be assigned as a coast to one of the vehicles that has already had a turn. So he'll just assign that to his medium vehicle. So he gets to move 1. He just coasts 1, so he's going to move forward 1. Alright, that will end his turn. So now we'll go back to the blue player. He's got 1 die left and 1 vehicle left to assign it to. So he'll assign his 2 to his medium Avenger. He'll just have to go this way, 1, 2, since he didn't move on all road spaces. He can't get the bonus move from the die. Nobody he can shoot at, so that's pretty much going to end his turn. So we'll move that die down there. And now we'll come take the final turn of the round with the green player. He's just got 1 die left and 1 vehicle left he can assign it to, his medium Avenger. So he's going to move it 3. He's going to try the same trick that the blue player did to the orange player. He's going to move into him and hope he can slam him up under this. So he's going to move 1, 2. Now, even though he had 3, he's going to lose that extra movement since he slammed into this vehicle. Now, remember, because the blue vehicle's bigger, he can request a reroll. And since that would definitely send him under the chopper and eliminate him, the blue player is going to request a reroll. So now it's the top vehicle that's going to move, and he's going to move back 1. So that didn't work out quite for the green player as he had hoped, but came close. If that blue player had rolled, or if the roll had come out the same again, he would have moved under the chopper and been eliminated. But it didn't. So that's going to end his turn. He'll slide his thing down. Now that would end the round. So we would pass the road die to the green player now, and then everybody would re-roll all the dice, and we'd start again with the green player being the first player. And so it would continue like that with the players heading toward the tile. Again, if one of the players is eliminated, since this is a 3-player game, if one of the players has all their vehicles eliminated before somebody crosses the final, moves off the final tile up here, then you would put the finish line, and the first car to cross that finish line would be the winner. Otherwise, if a car is going to go off the tile and nobody's been eliminated yet, then you would randomly draw another tile and replace it. To the front, you would remove the rear tile. Anybody still back there on the rear tile, their vehicle would be eliminated, and so forth. And you continue that way, as I said, in the rules overview, until somebody wins the game. But anyway, that's going to wrap it up. I didn't really have as much fun as I thought I would have, given all the buzz that I have. But again, I think it's probably more fun if you're playing with other players and not playing it solo. So I think I will reserve any judgment till I've actually played it with other players. But so far, okay. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.